Hello, everybody. Welcome to my live. It's been a little while since I've done a live, so why? Well, I just had surgery on my right hip. As a matter of fact, I had it 2 days ago, and yet I am walking already without a walker. I'm walking slow, but I'm walking without a walker. So just a matter of time before everything's all up and running with no problems at all. All right, so this will be my first live in a while. All right, so what are we going to talk about today? Well, I'd like to talk about the victim of crime non-immigrant visas, okay? And there's different types, but the three main types that we're going to be talking about is the U, the S, and the T, okay? So what I'll do is I'll go over some specifics with that. And then what I'll do is I'll go back. I will answer whatever questions you guys have. And then we'll go on from there. All right. So let's start with the U. The U, first of all, is when you're a victim of a specified crime. Now, people always, they'll think, that they'll be a victim of whatever it is. Like, somebody went into their house and stole their wallet and they're, qualified for a U visa, which of course is not the case. It has to be in one of the enumerated crimes specifically listed, although given that, there might be a catch-all that will allow you to still get the U visa, even if it's not specifically listed. The problem with the U visa, and this is a United States problem, is there's only issued 10,000 per year. Now, I know what you're thinking. 10,000 U visas per year? How could there possibly be victims of crime numbering 10,000 per year? Okay? But the reality is not only are there victims of crime meeting 10,000 per year, but it's way backlogged. Because once they use the 10,000 up, they go into the next year's allotment and so forth. So if you're going to apply for a U visa, then you're going to be waiting many years for everything to go through. That's the reality. So while I wouldn't discourage a U visa, especially if that's the only type of visa that you qualify for, and also because with the U, the S, and the T, waivers of inadmissibility are easier to get, okay? Meaning that if you're inadmissible for some reason, you did a crime or fraud or whatever, it's easier, even if it's an aggravated felon, it's easier to get that crime or whatever it is you did waived so you could still get the visa, okay? And that's why sometimes people otherwise might qualify, for example, for a simple adjustment of status to marriage, except for the fact that they're an aggravated felon and they don't qualify, okay? So that's what we have to look at. So if you qualify for an S or a T, the bottom line is it will be better to apply for the S or the T rather than the U. Now, they're not mutually exclusive, okay? You could apply for a U and a T, okay? Or whatever. It doesn't matter. It's like two horses going around the track. The last one to the finish line, okay, loses and the first one wins. So if you have a U and a T going at the same time and you qualify for both, I guarantee you're going to get the T first. So what is a T visa? Because sometimes if you qualify for a U, you do qualify for a T, or sometimes you have no clue that you have qualified for a T. It's just not as popular, okay? T means, a visa T, when someone is a victim of trafficking. Now, it doesn't have to be just sex trafficking, although definitely sex trafficking qualifies, but it could also be work trafficking. Okay, I had, for example, I had a case where a guy was brought over by his uncle type thing, and then his uncle didn't petition him. His uncle made him work like 14 hours a day, never paid him, and did this for like 3 or 4 years until he decided to leave. Okay? And we applied for the T visa for this guy, and that he was being trafficked to work, which that's what it was. And ultimately he got it. And then, what happens is afterwards you can apply for the green card. Okay, normally it's a few years. So in that particular regard, this guy technically wasn't a victim of crime, but he was a victim of trafficking, work trafficking, where his uncle decided to use and abuse him up and down to get a bunch of free labor for a long time. And when he left and got to my office and I found out what happened, we applied for the T visa. Now, keep in mind that when you do these visas, the T, the S, or the U, you don't have to bring in the person who committed the crime or the person who committed the trafficking. Okay? Because a lot of people would never go forward if that was the case. For example, this guy with the uncle that made him work 14 hours a day, I mean, he would have probably feared his uncle would come and kill him if he was doing what he did, okay? If he told him for sure, okay? So that's how that works. Now, the only other one we haven't discussed is the S visa, and that's where more or less you're a material witness for specified kind of crimes. Okay, it's not just any crime, but like, for example, if you're brought back into the United States after a deportation because the FBI wants you to testify against so-and-so so they can get a conviction, well, that's the time you need to contact an attorney to see if you qualify for the S visa. Because after you have already given the testimony, you're unlikely to receive their cooperation. They're more than willing to do the cooperation before they get a conviction. Because if you don't cooperate, which you don't really have to, especially if you're outside the country with a deportation order, then they just won't get what they want. So that's the time that you have to negotiate with the government or whoever is doing the trial so that you can try to get them to sponsor you for the S visa. So there you go. You have basically the S, the T, and the U, and each of them are different. Each of them have different qualifications. But the bottom line of what we learned today is if you qualify for the T or the S, that would be the better way to go. Okay? All righty. So let's go back to all the people that joined and see if we have any questions. Okay? Hey, you want to know an interesting fact? I've been doing immigration law for 30 years, right? Actually, it's been more than 30 years now. Boy, that's where all the gray hair comes from. And there's been cases where people were in removal proceedings, they had crimes, or they were trying to get a visa that got denied, and I found out that they qualify for derivative citizenship in the U.S. because their parents or grandparents were born in the U.S., and, you'd follow the law and go down, and ultimately they qualified to be a U.S. citizen. Well, I found that I could do the same thing for myself. My father was born in Canada, and I actually haven't seen him for 55 years. He's one of those guys that just left, okay, with 4 little kids. But I was able to pull the records. I was able to make the application, and sure enough, I got myself dual citizenship now in Canada. So I'm a Canadian citizen and a U.S. citizen. And it was kind of fun doing it for myself because I've done it for so many other people, at least to be U.S. citizens, that to do the application and submit it to myself was quite fun. Okay. I mean, I got a kick at it doing it. What's funny is, so my dad was born in Montreal, right? And when I sent the application, they sent me back this email, 100% in French. Not one word in English. And so, of course, I ran it through ChatGPT. I translated it all. I found out what they were looking for. And then I made my response. I translated it back into French, sent it back, and sure enough, I got approved. But what's funny is when they sent me the certificate of citizenship, half of it's in English and half of it was in French. But when they wanted more information from me, like, is your father alive or dead, or what's his mother's maiden name type thing, because that's what they asked. They didn't even try to speak in English. I thought that was kind of funny. But it didn't make any difference because I can translate any language without a problem and then send it back. No problem at all. Okay, well, I just thought that would be a kick. Okay, let's see what we have here. I'm just scrolling down to see if we have any questions. We might not. And if we don't, we don't. If we do, I'll answer them. Okay. So we have a lot of people that joined. Let's see. So it says invite Grandma Oravez to join live as a guest. Does that mean that you want a consultation? Because if you do, I'll invite you. And then, you can do a consultation. Tell me what your immigration problems are. Okay, just a sec. Okay, so here's one. There's no name. It's like this. So whoever you are, like this. Sir, how hard is the denaturalization? Well, denaturalization is very hard. It's extremely hard. Okay, what that is when someone's a U.S. citizen and the government, for whatever reason, decides that they're going to denaturalize. Now, as you might know, the current administration has threatened to denaturalize everybody under the sun who became a U.S. citizen. And, of course, you can see by the nature of this question, there are people afraid. They're thinking that that basically the government snaps their fingers and, they'll lose their citizenship. But it's much, much harder than that. Okay? They have to bring a federal lawsuit. They have to prove that you got naturalization basically through fraud, okay, through misrepresentation. And the chances of you getting naturalization through fraud or misrepresentation is so low and so uncommon that it would be very unlikely they would be able to denaturalize you. So, for example, let's just exaggerate. Let's say you lied about having the green card and you made a fake green card, okay? And then when you applied for naturalization, they didn't catch that it was fake. And then they, give you your citizenship. Well, in that kind of case, of course, they can try to denaturalize you. But again, it's not just snapping their fingers. They have to bring a whole lawsuit. They have to have a trial. They have to have all kinds of evidence. It is very difficult. So when the president says that they're going to denaturalize all the citizens who have been naturalized, you can forget that that's really going to happen. Okay, out of 1,000 cases, maybe one might qualify to be denaturalized, and even then, it takes a lot of governmental resources to do it. Okay, but don't sign anything, because the first thing they're going to try to do, they're going to lie to you. And they're going to say stuff like, well, we're going to bring you to trial and we're going to find you committed fraud and we're going to put you in jail for the next 25 years because of it. But if you just sign here, everything will be hunky-dory. Well, all you're doing is signing something to denaturalize yourself. Okay? Don't sign it. Make them work for it. Because I guarantee you, a denaturalization procedure and process is very difficult to win. It really is. Okay, what's the government going to do in most of the cases? Say, oops, we didn't know that this or that? Or are they going to make up allegations of fraud, which in today's day and age they might, but you get a good immigration attorney, they'll shoot it all down. Okay, there you go. Let's see. Okay, I'm just scrolling to see if we have anything else. Okay, this is from Tone. My girlfriend lied to me for 2 years. Turns out she has one kid hidden. What should I do? Okay, well, if she's your girlfriend and you're not married, then there's not much I can help you with immigration. I mean, if you petitioned her and you find out she's married, find out that she's hidden and lied to you all this time, withdraw the application. You can do that. If you're petitioning her, you can withdraw the application. It has to be withdrawn properly, but you can do it. Okay, so that's what you do. Let's see. Okay, one sec. See if we have any more questions. Looks like Bimla Chima got the number 2 gifter badge. Okay. Okay, this is from Anthony Kinda. Does ICE have to provide reasonable religious accommodations like a Torah or a Talmud? No. Okay. First of all, they're not going to do that at this point, even if they have to. They're violating the law so much. They're running over the constitutional rights of people. And the shocking part about it is they've hired so many people to go into ICE that are not qualified. They don't have any knowledge about the Constitution. They don't know what they're supposed to do or not to do. All they know is the more people they arrest, they get a bonus. So they could care less how they're ruining someone's life as long as they get their bonus. Okay, it's really sickening, but that's the reality of what is happening today. So that's why you have to fight. Okay, that's why, and by fight I mean legal. Okay, don't fight them literally, because they'll pull out their guns. Okay, so there's all kinds of ways of making legal battles to try to win. Okay, an unlawful detention, and so forth. I mean, they're taking U.S. citizens, they're taking residents, they're taking people they have no right to take, they're taking people that look like they have a different color skin, that basically anyone who doesn't look like a white nationalist, they're taking, okay? So it's a scary time. But you can fight it, okay? And like if you heard the press conference from the governor of Illinois the other day, I love how he was saying, don't come into my state and, do all these unconstitutional things to try to take people off the streets, essentially so you can get your bonuses, because they will use every method at their disposal to bring to court the violations of the Constitution that these guys are doing, which they are. Okay? So that's that. But even if you're put in detention, there's no legal requirement that they provide the Torah or the Talmud. Okay? There's just not. You have to fight your case on other grounds than that. Okay? All right, let's see what we got here. One sec. Well, Anthony says Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom to you. What's the date today? Is it Saturday? Is it Saturday where you are? Okay. Let's see. One sec. I think I got all the questions. Let me just make sure, because I don't want to leave anybody hanging who asked me a nice question and I didn't answer it. I mean, what's the dilly with that? Just a minute. Okay, I think that's it. Let me just scroll to the bottom, make sure we don't have any more. Okay, we got one more. This is from Stoda. My friend came on a visa and while overstayed was labor trafficked and forced to work. Can she get the T? Okay, so this is good, right? I mean, it's not good she was trafficked in labor. I'm not saying that. But if in fact you can prove that she was trafficked in labor, yes, she can get the T. And the fact that she overstayed, that's normally a ground of inadmissibility, but that can be waived with a T visa, as with most things that make you inadmissible can be waived with a T visa. So call my office. She may have a very good case. I don't know how long she overstayed and how much labor she was trafficked in. But if it's done properly and she qualifies for the T visa, that's the best way to go. Okay, they actually only give 500 of those a year, but those 500 are not being used. Believe it or not. There's 10,000 U's that are being way overused every year, way more than that. But 500 T's are not being used because people don't know about it. Okay, so that's all it will take. All right, well, on that, I will tell everybody to have a good day. Get my hip all better and walk some more. And I'll see you on the next live.